It is August 23rd, 2024. Should public schools in the state of Michigan not allow cell phones in classrooms? Earlier this year, I had an amendment during the budget process that would have required schools, in order to receive incrementally new funding for their budgets, they would have had to have a policy preventing cell phones in the classroom. This is an issue that's growing. This is an issue that's near and dear to every parent that has middle school aged kids or high school aged kids. And with the advent of smartwatches, I'm hearing it's a growing issue even in elementary schools. Why would this be needed? What's the point in having a conversation? Well, obviously, there is the distraction argument. One school district I talked to said that this is the first year that they've had a district-wide policy, and it actually came from the teachers. They demanded that there was a statewide or a district-wide policy on phones. They were just spending too much time dealing with phones, and it was taking away their instructional time. That's not good for kids. But I think there's a much bigger issue here, and it deals with mental health. So I looked at some statistics since 2010, which was the advent of smartphones, and there was major spikes in major depressive disorder for kids, anxiety for kids, emergency room visits for self-harm, again for kids, and suicide rates for adolescents. The one statistic that really stood out to me was the sheer number of girls that are dealing with major depression. Almost a third, from the latest data I saw, almost a third of the girls were dealing with major depression. I think it's worth noting it's not necessarily the smartphone itself. It's whatever content on the smartphone that the kids are viewing is having a negative impact on their mental health. And I also don't want to put all of it on the smartphone. I think there's other factors outside of the smartphone that could be going on in a kid's life, or something that's going on culturally, or whatever the cause could be. So I don't want to lay it all on the smartphone, but I think everyone has got to agree that smartphones for kids when they are at that young, impressionable age is having a negative impact on their mental health. And I've talked for years to administrators about this. When I was serving in the House, one principal I had talked to from that district, they were early adopters of this. And one story that really stood out with me, and something I've remembered for years now, is he had a student who came up to him after they adopted a policy saying no phones in classrooms. And she was so appreciative, and she felt so much more relaxed in the classroom. And he kind of asked, well, what's changed? Why is there this big shift? And she said, I felt like I always needed to be posing for a picture when I was in the classroom. She was always afraid someone was going to take a picture, and she wanted to make sure it looked photogenic. So that level of stress throughout the entire day, it'd have to be kind of zoned in to be photographed. It was just too much, and it was just really stressful. So once that concern went away, she was able to relax and actually hopefully focus on the instruction that was going on. So this is a big issue. This issue is not going away. It's a growing concern. And yeah, there's an argument that we need to make a change like this in order to increase student outcomes. Yeah, that's true. But I'm mostly concerned about the mental health aspect, especially when you look, we had 92% of funding for mental health and school safety was cut this year. Some have argued on the left that funding was always supposed to be one time. I don't buy it. If you look at the growing statistics of mental health issues with kids, this issue is not going away. We need to make sure schools have the resources they need in order to keep our kids safe, and also make sure their mental health is taken care of as well. So taking cell phones out of the classroom is one place to start. There's a bunch of different ways we could go about it. I would lean toward trying to make sure districts can customize a policy that works best for them. If it's keeping your phones in your lockers, you can check them between classes. Schools are laid out different. They have different circumstances. So I would lean towards schools having to have some type of policy and not be overly prescriptive from the state level. But I would advocate, I think it's time. This is something we need to look at in Lansing and come out with something that's going to help improve our kids' mental health. So thank you, and God bless.